on that first assassination attempt, we have now more explosive revelations about the Secret Service. The New York Post is reporting the agent in charge of the Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, was known to be incompetent and failed a key examination during their federal law enforcement training. This is according to new whistleblower allegations released by Senator Josh Hawley. How can the Secret Service be that incompetent? We've also learned this week their intelligence units were absent from the Butler rally, and even after the shooting, they made enormous errors in not properly securing the hospital where President Trump was receiving treatment. You can understand why people are believing conspiracy theories. It's hard sometimes to believe you could have this level of incompetence.
Yeah, it really is. And sometimes, as we've often learned in America in the past 5, 10 years, the line between a conspiracy theory and fact sometimes is actually quite blurry. I mean, the left obviously has dismissed any number of things as conspiracy theories, whether it's the lab leak in Wuhan, China, or the Hunter Biden Russian laptop as Russian disinformation, which obviously it was not. So the line does get a little blurry sometimes there. But generally speaking, when it comes to the Secret Service, I mean, one of my first thoughts when I first heard the news on Sunday was, I think a lot about America's enemies in the world, about China, Russia, Iran. I mean, what a clown show we must look like to our enemies all around the world at a time when our enemies have never been more on the march over the past 25, 30 years. They must look at us and they must just laugh and laugh and laugh. And another thing that I was thinking about, the news cycle here in the U.S. is so chaotic, and we're 6, 7 weeks or whatever it is away from a presidential election. And so the news cycle moving this quickly is somewhat understandable. But we also moved on from that first assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, very, very, very quickly. And we still have this congressional task force. We're waiting for them to produce any findings. But every time that there is a near assassination, an assassination attempt on a high profile individual, let alone a president of the United States, every time that happens, and the news cycle just moves on within a few days as if nothing happened and no one's even talking about it. Every day that happens, every instance, God forbid that happens, if it happens again, God forbid, America just gets closer and closer to being a full-fledged banana republic, I feel.
You're absolutely right. The way they tried to memory hole that assassination attempt, and it was so remarkable in so many ways. The fact that at that last millisecond he turned his head, saving his life, and still it came within a couple of centimetres of killing him. And so to have it all captured on video. And then to see the media just move on like it was nothing when they're obsessing about January 6th to this day, it just tells you everything you need to know about why trust in the media is at historic lows, Josh. And the US media, I think, again this week have really disgraced themselves with the way they're covering this second attempt, almost blaming Trump and his supporters for being upset about it.
I don't see a whole lot of sadness, frankly. I don't see a whole lot of regret. I don't see a whole lot of contemplation or introspection or any kind of just looking in the mirror and asking whether or not, any of these individuals, whether it's Joy Reid and Jen Psaki on MSNBC or Joy Behar on The View or any of these other individuals, I don't see a whole lot of people asking, am I partially like in a small way? Am I partially to blame for this current noxious atmosphere in American politics? I mean, surely it is not asking too much to ask at a bare minimum that we not call for the extermination, either literally or proverbially, of the opposing candidate. I was watching a clip earlier today of Congressman Dan Goldman, who is in New York City, very left-wing Democrat. He actually called verbatim for the elimination of Donald Trump earlier this year. He was talking about this Democratic Party propaganda context that Donald Trump is this unmitigated threat to democracy, and he actually said he has to be eliminated. Well, what in the world did you guys think was going to happen? Ultimately, we are culpable for our own actions. I'm not saying that anyone actually pulled the trigger other than Thomas Crooks in Butler, Pennsylvania, but you also cannot overlook the actual broader context. Those two things happen to be both true at the same time, I feel.
And we're seeing them trying to hold Republicans responsible for these supposed bomb threats in Springfield, Ohio, but you can't hold Democrats responsible for characterizing Trump as a Hitler, as a threat to democracy, and then having these acts of violence perpetrated against him. It's bizarre. It's sadly what we've become used to in 2024. Josh Hammer, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you, Rita.